They call him Coach Loggins, born and raised, he from Chi-Town. Spreading love to the East Coast, it's a rap now. The game's over, it's winning season, I should've told you. Coach Loggins, the winning team, it's the takeover. Automotive industry, y'all better listen. Y'all ain't doing what I'm really doing in this industry. This gonna be some history. Swear to God, it's legendary. Swag so cold, we giving lifetime warranty. We the motivated Machiavelli, the car business. And that new Genesis X is coming, so get ready. And it's a smooth driver. I hit them turns, call me Ghost Rider. And we got deals on top of deals, go get your co-signer.
Hey guys, Coach Loggins here, and I'm here to tell you we're back. And this is the All the Way Up podcast, episode number 2. 2 and 2 for you. You know why we're doing this? Because we're going to bring you all the way up today to where we need to be. It's 2024, and we got to be prepared to hit the door and get running hard. So, anybody that watched the first podcast, if you did, you should probably go back and watch it because it's going to happen. And it's going to continue to happen. A lot of people have been asking me, tell me they want more, and they loved it. So I'm going to feed you as much as you want. The plan is to release these every couple weeks for you guys because I don't want to do too much. I'm not trying to bore you guys, and I'm not trying to, you know what, I'm a busy guy, but I'm here to touch everybody. And what I'm going to continue to talk about is what we're going to do from our first time. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of the story, and I'm going to start it for you guys so you guys can hear how we created and got into all of this. I also want to let everybody know in our podcast that it's going to hit the TV network, Apple, Spotify, Hulu, you name it, you're going to see it. And I want to make sure you see it. YouTube, right? Coach Loggins 128, Instagram, follow me, search me, find it. But you know what? You guys don't have a ton of time with me, so let's get right into this. I explained in the very beginning before how I started in my career, in my business, where I worked to and what I did. And I gave you just little bitty roadblocks as I did it. But I'm going to tell you about when I got these roadblocks, how my mindset was and my mentality was to continue to push forward and what I had to do to create an environment that was not only good for me, but good for people around me, including my family. So what I'm going to get into, if you guys remember rewinding very back to the beginning, I explained how I got in the car business and I went through my first divorce really quick. But what I want to get into is really tough because the last 20-something years in the car business, I've had people tell me how they can't do things or they can't make things happen. And I want to let you know is you can do whatever you set your mind to. Okay? Anything you set your mind to can be done. So the first thing that I want to get into in the very first drive is after my divorce, I was pretty much trying to figure out what am I going to do, trying to see my kids, work a full-time job, support my family, whatever it was, pay child support, whatever it is. What was I going to do as such a young kid? Wasn't even old enough to really drink at this point. I wasn't even 21 at this point. What am I going to do? So I got outside of my family. I didn't listen to their direction. I didn't listen to anybody's direction, and I went upon my own route. And I'll tell you, it didn't work out. It didn't work out, and I'm going to tell you what happened. So fast forwarding it all to my divorce and getting in the car business. So I got in the car business as a salesperson after my sister had helped me and put me in front of somebody to get in there. And I got into the car business freshly separated, trying to see my kids, trying to make ends meet. Couldn't pay the bills, guys. It was tough. My sister had to help me with money. I had to get help from people. It was tough. And the last thing I want to do, I don't want any handouts, and I don't want anybody helping me. I want to be able to try to do it on my own, right? I love helping people, but I don't want people helping me. So my sister takes me to the dealership to go and say, these guys will give you a job. The guy says, hey, kid, you think you can sell cars? I said, I can sell anything, okay? So now we fast forward into I actually start working. So I show up to work. They stick us upstairs into a room. And at the same time, my sister's helping with my children. I got to figure out what am I going to do with my children while I got a new job and I'm trying to build a career out of myself. What am I going to do? I don't I don't have daycare. I don't have enough money to support daycare. I didn't have a car really at the time. I mean, what am I going to do to continue to sustain a 50, 60, 70, 80-hour week job, trying to make six figures and trying to be a dad at the same time, a single dad, and make all this work? Well, I'm going to tell you it was hard work and it can be done. So I'm going to start this at where my sister in the beginning helped me out with this. And as she helped me, I'm working and things are going good. Well, my sister finally tells me one day with my kids, hey, I'm moving to Florida. And I go, you're moving to Florida? Now I've been at my job a couple months. I just got released onto the floor as a salesperson, making that $100 a car per car sold that I told you about. And she's up and leaving me. My sister, she's moving to Florida. And I go, okay. And she asked me, she goes, Dan, do you want to come with to Florida? I go, you know what? I'm a young kid. I was like, man, that sounds great. That sounds awesome. Well, I was setting up to do it, but as I was doing this, I'm in my career. So I'm going to work. I'm picking up my children from a babysitter or their mom, and I'm bringing them to my sister, or she's helping out on my lunch breaks. My kids got into school. I was picking them up from school at 3 o'clock. That was my lunch. I was driving from work 40 minutes, 30 minutes on my lunch to pick up my kids to either bring them home to my sister or to bring them to some after-school activities, and then heading back to work to finish my work. I can't even get people to sometimes come back from lunch on time. And I was literally running back and forth, worried about how my kids were going to be raised and what's going on. But I knew that I couldn't raise my kids very well without money. And I was like, I'm getting ready to move to Florida, so I got to work hard and do this. Well, at this time, I had already met my current wife, and we had been talking. And long story short, we continued to move forward. I start progressing in the car business. And when I tell you something in the car business, when I got in, nobody treated you very nice. And they were very rough, very coarse, disrespectful in the car business would be the word for it. And I didn't know if I was at the right place or not. My first deal that I had, I remember during this time, when I got released from training onto the sales floor, I brought the deal over to the finance manager at the store, and I give him the deal, and the finance manager rips the deal jacket in half, all the paperwork that I did for the customer, and he throws it by me, and it goes past me, and it goes through the door and onto the floor. As professional salespeople of one of the number one stores walked by and kicked the paperwork on the floor as they were doing it. I'm like, I'm the new guy. So, the first thing I'm thinking, I walk out, I pick up this stuff, and I'm like, how do you treat like somebody like, I wasn't really thinking, I was thinking like, I'm going to meet this guy by his car or something, but you can't be like that. And I'm picking up my paperwork off the floor, and I go up to the manager and I go, hey, Mr. Manager, I don't want to use names for protection of them at this point. And I give him the paperwork and I say, hey, why would this guy rip my deal in half when I got customers waiting to go in the fight? Why would you do that? He goes, well, did you do your job? I go, yeah, I sold a car. I put everything together. He goes, well, no, did you do okay in the paperwork? I said, I'm pretty sure I did a good job. Well, did you check? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He goes, well, it looks like you got to redo the paperwork. Well, I'll tell you, if that wasn't a slap in the face, I was feeling about that big. I had to go redo paperwork, and I had to have the customer sign it again. And I was really afraid to go back to that finance manager and face him after he had treated me that way. And I was just kind of like, if this is how the car business is, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I bring the deal back over, and I'm so nervous. I give him the deal, and I hand it to him, and he goes through it. He's like, you know what, kid? I go, what? He goes, you won't make it in this business. I go, okay, I understand. He goes, you don't have what it takes. I go, no problem. I set my paperwork down. I went out. Deliver off the car. Everything went well. Obviously, to leave work, feeling a little bit, I don't know, maybe sensitive or aggravated or whatever you want to say, to then go pick up my kids, right? Then I got to go make them dinner if my sister didn't take care of it, get them set for school the next day. The things I did preschool, it was a preschool one was and I had to get it all set up for them tired, working a lot, and constantly getting yelled at the dealership. And it was tough. But my kids at that time were at the utmost importance to just make sure that they were taken care of and doing their thing. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and pull this outside of work and inside of work for a second. So I hear a lot of people say, I can't do this and I can't do that. And if I'm able to do this and if I'm able to, how about you just remove if out of there and stop saying I can't, say when I get this done or when this happens, and just keep it that way? Why can't we just do that? It's not if, it's when. And at this time, I was so confused because I'm like, how can I make money to support my children, support my family, and how am I going to get custody of my kids? Because I didn't have custody of my kids yet. It was partial. So my goal was to sell as many cars as I could, to make as much money as I could so I could be selfish for my family and take care of my children and gain custody of my children. Well, the awesome thing about all this is hard work, you prevail. And I'm going to tell you, I did everything I was told to do. I worked very hard. Now I'm at the top of the board selling cars. I'm now aiming to get custody of my kids, already in court with my kids. And a year and a half after being in the car business, of getting taken into court, going into court, I got custody of my children in the state of Illinois, which is very difficult. I went through a couple of lawyers. I went in front of a couple of judges. And I'm going to tell you, it was tough. I was told nothing. This is it. You're not getting custody. You're not doing this. It was the happiest day of my life when I walked into that dealership just shy of a year and a half later, and I was able to look. Norm Rich, we talked about this. I'm mentioning your name. You made a comment on my podcast, and I walked up to Norm Rich, and I said, Norm, guess what? He goes, what, big guy? I go, I got custody of my kids today. And he looked at me. He goes, really? He goes, man, that is awesome. Him and the finance manager took me out to dinner that night. We celebrated it. And I'm going to tell you, the momentum and the wind that I had in my back at that time was so great, you couldn't knock me down. I got custody of my kids, but then I'm like, oh, shoot, I have them full time now. Now what am I going to do? I'm 24/7. I'm not just half the week or part of the week or the day, or I got them full time. I'm like, I got full time. I got these little kids on full time, and I barely know how to raise myself, let alone, you know what I mean? So I put my focus into my job. I gave 120% of my job. I gave 120% to my kids. I ran myself ragged back and forth. I picked them up. I said I dropped them off. I left at lunch. I did this. I did all that. I got yelled at by my boss. I did this. I did that. Next thing you know, I got promoted because of my focus. You couldn't stop. You couldn't knock the wind out of my sail. But every time somebody told me it can't be done, I tried to find a way to get it done. And I knew that when I get it done, that then I could say I did it. But you'll never get it done without failing multiple times, once, twice, 3 times to get it done. Nobody's ever won a race by just running to a race and winning. Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't just get Mr. Universe by showing up to the gym 10 times and getting it. This is consistency that you need. So what I have for my people in the podcast today is part of being successful is having goals and action plans. Understanding you have a family and you have a job. You might want to spend all the time with your family, and you might want to lay in the bed in the morning because you're tired, but you know what? You need to get your butt up and you need to get to work, and you didn't make it done because if you're not on time, you're not going to have a job and you can't do any of this stuff. But if you want to move up into companies, in business, you got to work hard. You got to be able to keep getting hit, getting knocked down, and getting back up, and running twice as hard. And that's what you need to do. So what I would say is to anybody out there struggling, new in the car business, new in your job, new in anything, first thing you want to do is you've been given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. There's not 2 mouths in 1 ear. So you're not going to talk twice as much as you listen. You're going to listen twice as much as you talk. Most of us probably heard that growing up. And the more you do that, the better it'll be. The other thing is how do you move up in a company? I have the simplest Simplest thing that I could tell anybody is don't make your boss tell you the same thing twice. I'm going to say it one more time. Don't make your boss tell you the same thing twice. Because guess what? At 3 and 4 and 5 times you're not getting it, you're probably not moving up in the company. You'll be in the same spot 25 years later, working at Walmart. You got a 25-cent raise every year. For the last 15 years, you got no pension. You retire from a job, you're making $23 an hour. What kind of life is that? When you're trying to just save pennies just for Christmas and it's January, or just for the holidays, or for your husband or wife's birthday, or whatever it is. I look back on this and I try to think what it really took and how many nights did I sit there frustrated, being like, I can't do this anymore. I would tell myself, this is like, how much longer can I sit here and do this? And I'd pick myself back up in the morning and say, you're going to get up and you're going to do it again today. You're going to forget about yesterday. You're going to take your accomplishments from yesterday and you're going to keep facing forward and you're going to march forward to the finish line, and you're not going to stop because there's never a finish line, and you just keep going. So what I realized was when there's a will, there's a way. If you want it bad enough, you will get it. If you truly desire to win and be successful, you will be. Are you just saying you're going to be that person? Are you just saying you want to be that person? Are you going to be that person today? So what I think everybody should do is take a look at that small case scenario that I took in the beginning of my business. I had to learn how to sell cars. I had to learn how to be a full-time father. I had to learn, and then my sister does what? She ups and leaves to Florida. Now the time came. She comes to me 3 weeks prior and says, we're leaving to Florida in 3 weeks, and make sure you're ready. I said, I'm not going. I'm not going. And me and my sister are very close. I'm not going. And she goes, what? I go, I'm not going. I'm going to stay here. And at that time, I'm by myself. So I go, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to make it work. I just met my future wife. I got my things going with my kids. My career's advancing. I was now driving a nice demo, a $80,000 Suburban demo. And I was climbing the ranks of being successful. I was known as that guy at the car business, the top guy that worked hard. And you know what? Give the deal to him. Give it to him. He's a hard worker. He deserves it. He does it. And let me tell you, when I was selling cars, I came in on my day off to make phone calls and to set up my next day. We fail on setting up our next day and our current day. So if you're struggling right now and you just got in the car business, number one is we just got out of the pandemic. Anybody that came into the car business in the last 3 years, you're not a car person. Anybody that came into a retail business last year, you're probably not a retail person because that's not a real business. The last 3 years was not a real business model. In the recession of 07, 8, 9, 10, 11, during that time, those created monsters. Those created some of the best people around. If you want to be the best and you want to go all the way up, just like we're going all the way up, if you want to go all the way up, what do you got to do? You got to write down a plan. You got to write down your goals, and you have to get it there. You know what people say when they write down their plans? I'm going to get custody of my kids. I'm going to get a promotion at work, and I'm going to get this. Okay, great. How are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to work harder, and I'm going to show. No, you got to be able to manage and track your action plan to your goal. Meaning, I give you an example. A salesperson will come up and say, I want to sell 35 cars in January. Oh, great. Have you ever sold 35 cars before, Mr. Salesperson? No, sir. What's the most you ever sold? 20. Okay, great. So I think you should take off a little bit more to bite than a whole lot to bite. So I think instead of taking the whole 64-ounce ribeye, you only take a couple ounce bite, right? And how you do that is, okay, if 20 is the most cars you ever sold, go for 22, 23, just a couple more. You don't, and every month you increase that. But then what I would ask the salesperson, just like I'm going to ask each one of you right now, is What are you going to do to accomplish that goal? You know what salespeople say? I'm going to make more phone calls. Okay. I'm going to talk to more people. I'm going to close more deals. Those of you listening that are car people or any type of retail business, is that real? Does that make sense to you? So what you need to do is you got to have an action plan that you can track. So what I used to tell people is write down 2 goals a day that you're going to accomplish. When you get up in the morning, don't turn on your social media. Don't turn on your TikTok. Don't do anything. Put down your 2 goals for the day before you get up and give them with 2 bullet points, strong action plans to make sure that you hit those goals. And I'm going to tell you, the average person, your mom, your dad, and other people say, oh, you can't hit that goal. That's not realistic. You need to bring it down a little bit. Let me tell you, that's for weak people. Listen, they're called naysayers. I don't listen to those people. 23, 24 cars not defying the law of gravity. People's moms, parents, friends, and family would tell them, you know what, don't do that, do this. Make it easier on yourself. For what? If you want to make it easier on yourself, that bank account's not going to be friendly. How's it easy not paying your bills, not having enough money, taking care of 2 kids and what you're doing? So what I would do, I would put goals out there. And when I would lay down at night, before I go to bed, I would say, 1 car a day, keep the doctor away. 1 car a day, keep the doctor away. And I would tell myself, I need to talk to 3 customers tomorrow and get at least 1 to 2 car deals. And if I break down how many days are in a month, there's an average of 24 to 26 working days in a month, depending upon what days you take off, I should hit X, Y, Z and goals. So when I tell salespeople this and they come up short with their goal, by mid-month I confront them and I say, hey, you gave me a goal of 23 cars. Salesperson turns around and says, yeah, you know what? I don't think I'm going to hit it. It's mid-month. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to hit it. Why would you lower your goal? To make yourself feel better? That's called a participation award in 2023 and 24. No, you make that goal your primary function to hit that goal and make that your number one, because you know if you hit that goal, you're going to do well. If your goal is to get custody of your kids, you do whatever it takes to get custody of your kids. You're doing it for the win. If you know that you don't have money for a lawyer, listen, I borrowed money to pay lawyers. I borrowed money and paid people back. And I hate asking people for anything, but I did what it took to get custody of my kids. I did what it took to sell 25 cars, 30 cars, 45. So when you guys are setting your goals this year in 2024, what I want to try to tell you is let's make it a good plan. When you do that, that will help you in your future. So going back to whatever your challenges are today, whether you're new in the car business, whether you're new in real estate, whether you're new in the business that you own or you're doing anything, you have to map it out and it has to be laid out so everybody understands. Definitely going to be overcoming adversity at that point. The challenges are real. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. If it was the best thing, everyone would do it. And if everybody could do it, everybody would be doing it. So at the end of the day, I still tell you there's a reason why 1% or 10% of the people, 10% of people make 90% of the money because they do. And I'm going to always tell you that. So going back to the beginning where I told you my story, and I'm going to leave you guys with this because we're going to close it up because I don't want to give you too much information. Set your goals. Set trackable action plans that can be monitored, tracked, and looked at. Write them down because if it's not written down, it's merely a dream. Don't lower your goals. Always be prepared and always show up on time. Coach Loggins, out. Thank you, guys.
They call him Coach Loggins, born and raised, he from Chi-Town. Spreading love to the East Coast, it's a rap now. The game's over, it's winning season, I should've told you. Coach Loggins, the winning team, it's the takeover.